Oke, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm sorry for this trouble. It took too much time, so I will make it shorten that 7 minutes, maybe less than 5 minutes. So my title in my study is the relationship between self-regulation, time management, and the students' physics learning outcomes. This study in SMA Negeri 6 Takalar. So in my research, as you have known that in order to make the learning and teaching and learning in the schools getting their goals, there are two factors that affect of the teaching and learning. The first one is the external factors, which include the learning method, pedagogical content knowledge, and the competencies of teachers. Also, the teaching and learning resources. Meanwhile, the internal factors that come from the students, which are their motivation, their learning styles, and the students' attitudes towards the learning, the nature or characteristic of the students as well. It's come from Sanford 2010. And based on our observation through interview with some of the physics teacher in the school, it was found that some students lack of self-management. So self-management here, there are two parts, which are the self-regulation and time management. In psychological education, we already learned about the importance of the self-management. And another findings that arise from our observation, it shows that the students of the learning outcomes of the students in SMA Negeri 6 Takalar were in a low category. So that's why here I try to carry out a research about the relationship between two parts here, the two variables here, the self-management and the physics learning outcomes. The aim of this study was to know about the relationship between self-regulation and physics learning outcomes. The second part is the relationship between time management and physics learning outcomes, and the relationship between self-regulation and time management, so both, and the physics learning outcomes of the students in class 11 SMA Negeri 6 Takalar. Next. Next, please. Okay. Now, in our methodology here, we use the research design here. This research is an X post factor research with a quantitative approach. Here you can see here we carry out about the correlational relation here between self-regulation and learning outcomes, time management and learning outcomes, and self-regulation and time management with the physics learning outcome. Next. The population here is the all of the students in grade 2 or 11, and the samples that we take here is 85. So it's a big data actually from one school, and the data collection here. The data collection here, we use a questionnaire for self-regulation and time management. the second part is the test of the learning outcomes. We already use the validity and reliability test here, and the procedure is we have the pre-research and the research itself and the evaluation. Next, then the results, as we have already shown you that we have a three learning research goal here. The first is we want to know about the relationship between self-regulation and the physics learning outcomes. The second part is time management and physics learning outcomes, and the relationship between self-regulation and time management with the physics learning outcomes. Next. And, okay, next. The result shows that, next please. Okay, the first research question, it shows that there is no significant relationship between self-regulation and the students' physics learning outcomes. Jadi tidak ada perbedaan, tidak ada hubungan yang signifikan antara self-regulation and hasil belajar fisika peserta didik di kelas tersebut. Next. Another result shows that there is no significant relationship between time management and the physics learning outcomes. Next. And from this study, we find that there is no significant relationship between self-regulation and time management and the learning outcomes of the physics learning outcomes of the students in the school. So I think it's a quite different with another research about these variables, which are, we already know the self-management. It's very important part to achieve the learning goals in physics. But here the result shows in contrary. So there are many factors that affect these results. The first one, because the students, there are another factors that we don't study about them, and I think it might be a good suggestion for the next research to study about the relationship between the self-management and the learning outcomes. So I think that's it. That's all my presentation. You can give me a question if you wish, but if you want, there is no problem at all. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, well done. Thank you, Mr. Sudirman, for your nice presentation.
Okay.
So we will save the questions at the end of our presentation later. So I want to move to the second speaker. It will be Muhammad Asyam Samjasda, Mulyono Damopoli, Erwin Hafid, Saprin, and Rosdiana. No one? And then Suhartini Khalik and Suwardi Zain.
Hello, moderator.
Yes, Mrs. Madira, you may start right now.
Okay, yeah, of course, yes. Okay.
Time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for moderator for this time. Okay, first I will introduce, this is my team from the Muhammadiyah University of Sidendrapang, and under title Implementation of the SQ3R strategy to improve students' reading comprehension ability. Okay, this is implemented the SQ3R about the reading. The skill are basic skill for students that they must master in order to be able to participate in all activities in the education and learning projects. And reading comprehension ability, the objective, the Miss Lotan Salo of the subject, the fifth of grade students. The right strategy is needs to foster. And then the objective, this is research fifth grade students at Miss Muhammadiyah Lutan Salo, the location of Sidendan Rapang. The focus of improvement is the implementation of the learning. Okay, well, the research message maybe to move on my partner is Suartini. The times, okay.
Thank you. Method. This research design uses the cycle. Research design consists of planning, action, observation, and reflection stage. The data collection, there are two techniques, namely test and non-test. Tests in the form of exercise are carried about before the implementation of the action and at the end of each cycle. Non-test in the form of observation, interview, practice, and documentation. The test data were processed and presented in tabulated matrix, analysis descriptively qualitative. The process data were analyzed in the following stage: analyzing the data, reduce data, presentation of data, draw conclusion. Miss Nadira, result. Result and discussion.
Okay. Let me make well. Okay. Result and discussion for this slide. The results of the research seems that the students' pre-action ability was 50 students who attended. The first cycle was 54% for ex students in this case out of 10 students, and the second cycle was 12 students or 100. And then finally conclude that the implementation of the SQCR strategy of the students reading comprehension skills is improvement. SQCR, there are survey, question, read, recite, and review. This means the of the SQCR. Next. Yep. The next. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. The suggestion for this slide. The results suggested the use of SQ3R strategy is one of the teachers choose in teaching reading in elementary school. Okay. I missed that enough. Thank you very much for this theme to explanation. This is my material. And then thank you before to moderator and back to moderator. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, Mrs. Nadira, for your
Yes.
very nice
Okay,
presentation.
welcome.
Yes.
Yes.
Let me move to the next speaker. It will
Yes.
be Fitriani. Where are you, Fitriani?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Are you ready, Fitriani? Okay, well, I just moved to the next presenter. I invite Dewi Rahayu Herunisa.
Can you see my slide? Okay, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dewi Rahayu. In this special occasion, I will present my research paper under the title integrating Islamic values into ELT materials for the 11th grade students of Mahiajatul Qura Islamic Boarding School, Takalar. In this presentation, there will be 5 speakers and I will be the first one. Okay. First of all, I will explain the background of this research. So, English teaching material should be relevant or appropriate to students' characteristic, settings, and needs to help them learning meaningfully and achieving the learning goals effectively. So, in the context of Islamic boarding school, students' life cannot be separated with Islamic values. So their characteristics, setting, and needs are related to Islamic values. That's why it is highly important to integrate Islamic values into English language teaching materials to present a more relevant teaching and learning materials for the students in the classroom. However, in general school or in Islamic-based school, the teachers still use a general materials which is unrelatable with student situation, culture, and ideas, which can bring the students to learn unmeaningfully and also decrease their learning motivation. Based on the gap between theories and realities, this research is conducted to integrate Islamic values into ELT materials to present a more relevant materials to help the students learning meaningfully, achieving the learning goals effectively, as well as to shape their Islamic characters. All right, now we will talk about the research scope of this research. Initially, this research uses research and development methods to develop the teaching and learning materials by using ADDIE model for the systematic phases, starting from analysis, design, development, implementation, and evaluation. Moreover, the ELT materials that the researcher developed consist of 5 topics. As you can see on the slide, there is a topic about offers and suggestion, opinion and thought, and so on. Now, the researcher have collected several related research findings as a guidance and also comparison for this research. As you can see on the slide, there are several literatures which are coming from Cahyo et al., Navia et al., and Ansari et al. From these relevant literatures, the researcher can actually draw 2 main novelty of this research. Namely, this research is conducted in senior high school, so it's not like the previous research or the related research where generally they conduct the research in a junior high school. And then the second is the focus of this research is on the integration of textbook, which is focused on 4 integrated skills with Islamic values in general ways. Next. So in this research, there are 3 categories of research participants that had been chosen purposefully by the researcher. As you can see on the slide, students as the main sources of data for the interview and also need analysis. The second is there is a teacher as the informant in interview, as well as the validator of the developed materials. And then the next is there is 2 validators who validate the feasibility of the developed materials. All right, in this research, the data that had been collected through 3 instruments, as you can see on the slide. The first is there is an interview guidelines, so it was used in the preliminary research. After doing need analysis to get in-depth data. And then the second is questionnaire. So this questionnaire is basically being used to collect the data of students' need, as well as the textbook validation instrument. And finally, the researcher also analyzed several documents such as the existing textbook, also syllabus, which are being used by the teacher, the English teacher, to find several important and also relevant information for this research. So that's all from me. I will give it to the next speaker. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm Khairunisa MR. Here I will continue the presentation from Dewi Rahayu. Here I will explain about need analysis result. According to Hutchinson and Warders, um, related to need analysis, which includes target needs and learning needs. We have to know the difference between target needs and learning needs. Target needs is about what students learn, and learning needs is about what students need to learn. Related to the target needs, such as students' necessities, lacks, ability, and wants. Related to the learning needs is include about questionnaire of learning needs were designed based on component, namely input, procedure, teacher's rule, learner rule, and setting. Let's move in target needs. Okay, we can see the table of students' ability. There is speaking, listening, and reading are at a good level, while writing skill is at third level. From this research, can see that writing skill should be given more attention in the course than the other skill. Likewise, in table, students like. Next is student necessities. The data indicate the student's necessity in the component of grammar is in important and very important level. It means that the students consider that learning grammar is highly necessities. Likewise, the table students wants. Okay, let's move to the learning needs. We can see in listening, in speaking, skill listening. The first is we can see there are 70% students choose viewing original film. According to students, original film can bring them easier to learn how to speak naturally in daily communication. Likewise, in reading skill and writing skill and speaking skill. Next is teacher and students role. In students' role, the students prefer active in answering teachers' questions, spoken or written. And the last is setting. There are 70% students choose learning outside and of the class and learning in a small group, 3 until 4 students. The students believe that learning with group is more enjoy because there are a lot of activities that can be done together in fun wise. Okay, I think that's all from me. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Okay, well, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Let me continue the explanation of my friend. It's all about still all about integration and values in English textbook. I'm going to share or explain about the result of design phase. Well, in this phase, the researcher used the theory of Chung to design a syllabus of our English textbook, where and also we can find another theory according to your and also Richard. There are two kinds of syllabus and contain. The first from UR 2009 mentioned that syllabus is a document consisted of arranged content, clear goals, time, method, and materials. And also according to Richard, task-based syllabus focuses on providing a number of tasks to be performed by the student in target language. Both of them are the same syllabus but different in content. Okay, well, the component of syllabus that we have arranged, we can see from this three inset of tables. The first from 2013 syllabus, it's existing syllabus that the teacher of boarding school of they use this syllabus. And also we found another syllabus, task-based syllabus. and then both of them they have different content. As we can see, as you can view in this PowerPoint, the content of this syllabus both of them are different. So over here, we combine both curriculum as both syllabus, or we can call it as a blueprint. So our design, our they arranged by the researcher. You can see, you can view over here that there are unit title, basic competency, indicators, language focus, input, type of task, and also time allotment. It's extremely a game changer in our research. So decisively, we underwent this syllabus. So you have viewed in this slide. Okay, well, let's move on to the kind of tasks that we use in our syllabus. According to Willis, in TBLT, actually we use the theory of Willis in order we can arrange the content of our syllabus, or we can call it as a blueprint. According to Willis, the meaning of task refers to the activity in using the target language in communication to achieve the learning goals. It's a truly a mammoth theory that how to arrange the content of our syllabus. And then, according to Willis, in 1996 actually, listing, ordering, and sorting, comparing, problem solving, sharing personal experience, and also the current stuff. It's the type of task that we put in our syllabus. And also another theory, according with Pattinson, question and answer, dialogues and role plays, matching activities, communicative strategies, picture stories, puzzle and problem, and discussion and decision. The type of task that we view for you, we represent for you is already presented in our syllabus. So it's already done for my explanation. It will be continued explanation for my sister Suharti Apriani.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Let me continue the materials. I'm Suharti Apriani. In this phase, I will discuss about the result of developing phase. Okay. In this phase, the researcher created the actual teaching and learning materials by objectifying the component of syllabus in design phase. According to Cahyadi 2019, in developing phase, the process of material production and revision is carried out by following the final decision in choosing the appropriate materials to achieving the learning goals for students. And while in this space, the researcher wants to emphasize the form of Islamic integrating in the textbook as such as Islamic nuances picture text which is completed with verses of Quran and Hadith, and Islamic values in ties like a dialogue completed with Islamic message and expression in general moral values. Okay, the next is you can see this slide. This is the cover of our textbook. This is the existing textbook and developing materials. In the cover of our textbook, the cover present of the title of the book is English Book Integrated with Islamic Values. Is to brief introduction to the materials, the ways integrating with Islamic values for the students, teacher, and other learners, and all the type of characteristic of our covered book are adjusted to the purpose of the study with Islamic content. The next is the cover of the unit. This is the example from Unit 2, Opinion and Thought. The picture of opinion and the verses of Quran, we are included the characteristic picture and the meaning of the Quran verses, and the book integrated with Islamic values. The translation of Quran verses is in English. The student can convey the verses Islamic as well. Okay. The next is the materials of the textbook. In this slide, this is the differences between existing textbook and developing materials. In the existing textbook, there is no Islamic name, picture, and message. So the researcher developed the textbook with adding the Islamic name like Akbar, Muslima, and Balkis, and researcher adding the picture by using hijab and the messages with the Islamic message, like in the dialogue, the Balkis say that the Quran and Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam always with us. The next is the task writing activities. And the writing activities in existing materials do not use failures integration, while in the development task, each task have an Islamic corner, like Quran and Hadith first, related to the task, to give the students to know what the moral message that they can have been learned of each unit. That's all for me. I will give to the next presenter.
Okay. Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Okay, I'm Auni Batri Sharif, and thank you. I'll continue the presentation about the result of evaluation phase. According to McGrath in 2000, formative evaluation is taking place during and between the phases, and the purpose is to improve the instruction before the final revision. And in this research, evaluation is done in need analysis phase. The conclusion of need analysis is given to the stakeholder to be assessed. Validation of syllabus design through questionnaire, and assessing the feasibility of textbook based on BSNP or Badan Standar Nasional Pendidikan, covering the content, presentation, language, and graphic feasibility. The next is the syllabus design validation, and there are 7 important points of this syllabus design validation. And the first point, that is reach very valid level, said that the consistency of the syllabus design with the company syllabus for senior high school. And another 6-point reach valid level with the point about the appropriateness of the content with the course, the integration of 4 microscale in English, the learning outcomes that clearly stated, the indicator provided the learning experience for students, the syllabus support the integrated English skill, and the last important point is the syllabus provided suitable tasks for students. Move to the textbook validation. As what already explained earlier, that the validation is based on BSNP instrument that consists of 4 feasibility. The first one is content feasibility, and in this research reached very valid level with 4.17 out of 5. And 3 main things, that is the relevancy of material with standard competence and competency dasar, the accuracy of the materials, and the last is the availability of supporting materials. Another 3 feasibility, namely presentation feasibility, language feasibility, and graphic feasibility, reach valid level with 4.17 out of 5. And about the conclusion in this research, there are 3 main things, and it's based on the research questions. First is the information of students' need was obtained from the data in primarily research. Then about target needs covering student ability, necessity, lacks, and wants. And learning needs covering students' preference in input, procedure, teacher role, learner role, and setting. Secondly, about the design and development. Syllabus design was arranged equally with the consideration of learning, tasks, input, and the form of Islamic values integration. And the real form of textbook is arranged based on TBLT and the integration of Islamic values in the form of Islamic names, Islamic nuance such as picture, verse of Quran, Islamic message, and dialogue, hadith, moral values in general, and Islamic values in text. And lastly, in the conclusion of the result in this research, the result of syllabus reached very valid with 4.40, and textbook validation reached valid for content feasibility with 4.17, and valid for the 3 other components. The last is the recommendation. The research recommend 3 important things. First, the researcher recommends to do the implementation phase, and second, development for the topic in the second semester is highly necessary for students so the student can learn meaningfully through the complete Islamic values integration in textbook. And the third recommendation for the researcher is to implement the textbook in general school. It is not impossible to implement the textbook in general school by considering the high number of Muslim students in Indonesia. And that's all for our presentation. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'll send it back to the moderator.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for the very nice presentation from R&D group. Okay, well, now we move to the next presenter. We move to Sulmiati Sulema. Where are you, Sulmiati? Mrs. Sulmiati.
Okay. Thank you for moderator. Good afternoon. Okay, I will presentation about my article, the title by the relationship between EQ, emotional quotient, and SQ, spiritual quotient, with learning motivation in Islam religious education in student at SMAN 20 Makassar. Okay, one of the factor that supports the success of student learning is the intelligence possessed by humans. There are three levels of intelligence possessed by humans, namely intellectual intelligence, emotional intelligence, and spiritual intelligence. If one of the three intelligence is developed, it will affect learning success. On effort, the current education system only prioritizes intellectual intelligence, one of which is at SMAN 20 Makassar. According to the observation made by the research found that students were less focused of learning, as evidenced by sleepiness, lack of participation, and being seen going in and out without asking permission with the teacher. This is, of course, is problematic for students in the realm of learning motivation. Emotional intelligence and spiritual intelligence of students do not develop properly so that they affect this to intelligence, where these two intelligence have important effect on their learning assessment. Based on this, the research want to prove whether there is a relationship between EQ and SQ on learning motivation. Okay, the objective study are the first, describe the level of EQ and SQ of class 2 IPS student at SMAN 20 Makassar, and then describe the level of motivation to study Islam religious education student of class 2 IPS at SMAN 20 Makassar, and then testing the relationship between EQ and motivation to study Islamic religious education, and testing the relationship between SQ and motivation study Islamic religious education, and then testing the relationship between EQ and SQ, and then the last testing the relationship between EQ together with SQ and the learning motivation of Islamic religious education students of class 2 IPS at SMAN 20 Makassar. Okay, this is the type of the method. This is type of quantitative research. Uses the ex post facto research. The research model is dual paradigm with two independent variable and one dependent variable. The research location was at SMAN 20 Makassar, Street Bonto Biraing, Baron Village, Tamalate District, Goa Regens. The population is 60 students of class 2 IPS, and the entry class sample for class 2 IPS with two class group. This is sample is called the population sample because the sample taken is the size of the population, namely 60 students enrolled in the 2019 and 2020 academic year. The data collection method uses a questionnaire, and the analysis technique uses multiple correlation technique. And the last, The results and the question can be the description of the AQ and SQ class of class 2 IPS student at SMAN 20 Makassar is 71.7% in the medium category. The description of the motivation to learning Islamic religious education for students in class 2 IPS at SMAN 20 Makassar is 61.7% in the medium category. There is a positive relationship between AQ and the motivations to study Islamic religious education in class 2 IPS students at SMAN 20 Makassar. This is based on the results of the Sigma test, V-Change equality 0.653 is greater than 0.05. There is a positive relationship between SQ and motivations to study Islamic religious education in class 2 IPS students at SMAN 20 Makassar. This is based on the results of the Sigma test V-Change equality 0.694 is greater than 0.05. There is a positive relationship between AQ and SQ of class 2 IPS students at SMAN 20 Makassar. This is based on the result of the Sigma test V-Change equality 0.742 is greater than 0.05. There is a positive relationship between AQ and SQ with the motivation to study Islamic religious education in class 2 IPS students at SMAN 20 Makassar. This is based on the results of the Sigma test V-Change 0.724 is greater than 0.05. And then recommendation, this is research proves that emotional intelligence and spiritual intelligence are intelligence that can be developed by everyone. Meanwhile, if someone has a good level of emotional quotient and spiritual quotient, it must be caused by several factors, both external factor, environment, parenting culture, and internal factor within oneself. External factor and internal factor must mutually support each other so that there is a balance between the two. If the two intelligence develop properly, they will make students able to fight negative emotions within themselves so that they have the ability to solve problems in living life, especially in learning activity that can affect their learning motivation. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sulmiati Sulaiman. Now, we move to the last presenter, Fitriani Saini.
Yes. Can you
Okay,
hear
well.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you well right now. Are you ready, Fitriani?
Yes.
Okay, then.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alhamdulillah, amma ba'd. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. All of the committee, presenter, and participants. First of all, in this insightful international conference journal, Social and Islamic Study, 2022, allow me to thank for opportunity given to me. It is an honor to be a presenter article with the title Increasing Life Skill, Economic Growth in School, and Analysis of Hydroponic Implementation. At the second time, the speaker today I am Fitriani SSPD as a first author from the Biology Education Study Program. And now I am going to move on presentation. Jadi, baik, pun judul penelitian saya tentang upaya peningkatan minat bercocok tanam santri pondok pesantren dengan menggunakan teknologi. Next. Untuk latar belakang, so santri are mentored according to their talents to have expertise and abilities in life skill. The implementation of life skill-based Islamic education in various form activities such as courses, training and providing a place to apply the skill and expertise of the students. One of the efforts to support skill learning is through farming activity in pesantren area or land provided by pesantren. However, not all students like farming activity. Why? Because perception that farming is synonymous with being dirty and tiring. So it's considered less prestigious. This activity is tiring because one has to work in open space and have direct contact with the weather, rain, and or shine. Within the scope of school education, farming activity are generally not supported by the availability of adequate facilities, large land area, or an interesting learning system. Thus, alternative effort so needed to support skill through farming activity. One alternative way to grow crops without using towards a hydroponic system as part of modern farming. Jadi beberapa penelitian tentang penggunaan hidroponik memberikan hasil yang positif terhadap peningkatan minat bercocok tanam santri, seperti pada penelitian Priyono pada tahun 2017 yang melakukan penelitian di 3 pesantren yang berbeda dan mendapatkan hasil yang sama, yakni tingginya antusias para santri dalam budidaya hortikultur dengan sistem hidroponik. Relevan juga dengan penelitian yang dilakukan oleh MUIS pada tahun 2018. Penelitian yang dilakukan di pesantren Al-Quran Yayasan Bagus Salam memperoleh hasil tingginya minat para santri untuk aktif dalam kegiatan budidaya sayur dengan menggunakan sistem hidroponik baik secara individu maupun secara kelompok. So, hydroponic may be the best option because technique in a small area. Jadi dengan adanya beberapa penelitian, teknologi hidroponik mampu menjadi solusi untuk menarik minat generasi milenial untuk bercocok tanam. Kemudian untuk latar belakang relevan dengan pemaparan saya. Kemudian perumusan masalah relevan dengan apa yang saya paparkan di pendahuluan. Next. Nah, untuk tujuan penelitian juga berkorelasi dengan rumusan masalah yang saya katakan tadi, yakni untuk mengetahui minat bercocok tanam santri dengan menggunakan teknologi hidroponik. Dan untuk research methods, yang pertama ada research design. Jadi saya menggunakan metode penelitian deskriptif kualitatif, di mana deskriptif kualitatif ini dia bertujuan untuk menggambarkan atau mendeskripsikan fenomena-fenomena yang ada. Kemudian untuk strategi pencarian literatur. Untuk strategi pencarian literatur, saya menggunakan beberapa tahap. Yang pertama itu, saya menentukan terlebih dahulu database yang akan saya gunakan pada literatur review saya. So, saya menggunakan 4 database yang saya gunakan. Itu ada ProQuest, Science Direct, Google Scholar, dengan ResearchGate. Kemudian setelah saya menentukan 4 database yang akan saya gunakan dalam mencari referensi literatur review, kemudian tahap selanjutnya ialah next slide. Ya, kemudian selanjutnya adalah menentukan atau menggunakan formula PICO, di mana PICO ini merupakan singkatan dari P populasi, I intervensi, C kontrol, dengan O adalah hasil. Jadi variabel-variabel yang terdapat di dalam judul penelitian saya masukkan ke dalam kata kunci PICO, di mana fungsi dari atau tujuan dari PICO ini menurut Hansen dan Erikson dalam sebuah karyanya tentang systematic review, dia menjelaskan bahwa PICO ini bertujuan untuk memudahkan seseorang untuk menemukan referensi yang dia inginkan, yang relevan dan sesuai dengan judul penelitiannya. Next. Nah, tahap selanjutnya adalah inclusion and exclusion criteria. Kemudian referensi yang muncul pada kata kunci PICO akan melalui tahap penyaringan yang merujuk pada indikator-indikator inklusi inklusi dan eksklusi yang telah kami tetapkan. Perlu kami tekankan bahwa kriteria inklusi adalah kriteria yang harus dipenuhi atau wajib dipenuhi oleh setiap anggota populasi yang dapat dijadikan sebagai referensi literatur review. Jadi hanya jurnal yang memenuhi kriteria inklusi lah yang akan kami jadikan sebagai referensi dalam literatur review. Nah, kemudian untuk hasil dan pembahasan, next, ini adalah bagan atau sebuah Prisma Flow diagram yang merupakan hasil seleksi studi dari 4 database yang sudah saya gunakan, yaitu ProQuest, ScienceDirect, Google Scholar, dan ResearchGate. Nah, ternyata ada sebanyak 218 artikel yang memuat tentang mengidentifikasi tentang teknologi hidroponik. Tapi ada sekitar 79 artikel yang kita eksklud atau kita keluarkan dari penelitian tidak mengidentifikasi tentang teknologi hidroponik. Kemudian kita melakukan lagi hasil screening. Hasil screeningnya itu ada sekitar 103 jurnal atau artikel yang kami eksklusif dari alur seleksi studi. Karena ada jurnal yang tidak meneliti tentang minat santri dan publikasinya itu tidak dalam bentuk full text, sehingga didapatkan setelah direview semua referensi yang kita dapatkan, maka didapatkan 5 referensi atau hanya 5 artikel yang memenuhi syarat untuk dilakukan literatur review. Next slide. Kelima data atau kelima artikel yang saya jadikan sebagai referensi dalam literatur review sudah saya tampilkan di slide. Yang pertama itu penelitian Aziza Abron dan Paramita yang melakukan penelitian di PKM Santri Al-Hamdani, Kecamatan Buduran, Desa Siwalam Panji. Setelah direview jurnalnya, ternyata ada indikator minat yang muncul, yaitu ada perhatian, attention, dan ketertarikan. Karena terlihat pada review jurnalnya itu, didapatkan hasil bahwa terlihat adanya antusias santri dalam penanaman hidroponik yang ditandai dengan hadirnya seluruh santri, serta adanya kesanggupan santri untuk melanjutkan budidaya tanaman dengan hidroponik. Next. Kemudian, jurnal yang kedua, tulisan Tatik. Hasil jurnalnya itu menunjukkan adanya peningkatan kemampuan serta semangat santri untuk berwirausaha. Dalam hal ini terlihat dari tingginya antusias santri dalam bercocok tanam, sehingga indikator yang muncul pada artikel ini setelah direview ada indikator perhatian dan ketertarikan. Next. Kemudian untuk literatur yang ketiga, karya Muiz, Ismail, dan Palenari pada tahun 2018, penelitiannya itu dia menggunakan evaluasi program dengan pendekatan learning and action dan community involvement. Dan setelah direview jurnalnya, ternyata ada indikator minat yang muncul dalam penggunaan hidroponik, itu adanya keterlibatan. Dengan hasil, ternyata hidroponik itu dapat mengakselerasi minat dan partisipasi santri, serta adanya peningkatan pengetahuan dan keterampilan dalam teknik budidaya tanaman hidroponik yang ditandai dengan keterlibatan peserta secara aktif dan motivasi kuat dari guru dan santri. Kemudian literatur yang keempat. Next. Literatur yang keempat adalah karya dari Madusari, Astutik Sutopo, dan Handini pada tahun 2020 yang berjudul artikelnya atau judul jurnalnya itu Inisiasi Teknologi Hidroponik guna mewujudkan ketahanan pangan masyarakat pesantren. Dan setelah direview, hasil dari penelitian tersebut adalah minat dan antusias santri sangat besar dan ditandai dengan keaktifan dan keterampilan santri dalam menerapkan hidroponik. Kemudian ada minat yang muncul, minat bercocok tanam yang muncul, yaitu perhatian dan keterlibatan. Kemudian literatur yang terakhir itu adalah Nur Farid pada tahun 2018. Indikator minat yang muncul adalah perasaan senang dan keterlibatan, yang terlihat adanya peningkatan pengetahuan dan antusiasme santri dalam kegiatan penanaman hingga proses panen hidroponik. Jadi dari semua data yang kami sajikan, dari 5 literatur review yang kami dapatkan, diketahui bahwa seluruh referensi yang didapatkan memenuhi kriteria inklusif, baik dari rentang tahun publikasinya maupun judul penelitiannya yang mencakup tentang hidroponik di pondok pesantren. Sehingga disimpulkan ada beberapa indikator minat yang muncul, seperti adanya perasaan senang, adanya perhatian, dan adanya kemauan, serta adanya keterlibatan santri dalam penanaman sayuran dengan menggunakan teknologi hidroponik. Next, kemudian untuk kesimpulan. Jadi, berdasarkan literatur review yang telah kami lakukan, dapat disimpulkan bahwa teknologi hidroponik mampu meningkatkan minat bercocok tanam santri pondok pesantren. Hal ini ditunjukkan oleh beberapa tolak ukur keberhasilan dengan indikator minat berupa adanya perasaan senang, adanya perhatian, dan adanya keaktifan serta adanya ketertarikan santri untuk mau melanjutkan pemberdayaan hidroponik. Well, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, that's what we can share with you. Result or your study about enhancing life skill at Islamic boarding school and analysis and implementation. I hope this will be useful for us, teacher, and also teacher. Thank you for attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Fitriani, for your nice presentation. Now we move to the next presenter. Any Nurisma Hamidah and Nasrullah.
Nurisma Hamidah will present via video.
Okay, well, and then
So I
Muhammad
can
Arsyam
share video.
Samjad.
Nurisma.
Okay.
Oke, Tayyib. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in amma ba'du. Tayyib, let me explain. Let me tell you by using Indonesian language. Ismahuli an atakallam bilughatil Indonesia. Izinkan saya menjelaskan menggunakan bahasa Indonesia, tashilan lana walakum, yang mempermudah saya dan antum semua atau kalian semua untuk mendengarkannya. Oke. Jadi pada kesempatan yang mulia pada pagi hari ini, pertama kita mengulas dahulu. Ada pepatah yang mengatakan bahwa tak kenal maka tak sayang. Tidak, itu salah. Tak kenal maka ta'aruf atau perkenalan dulu. Jadi perkenalkan, nama saya Nurisma Hamidah dari UIN Maulana Malik Ibrahim Malang, jurusan Pendidikan Pasarak, yang alhamdulillah pada pagi ini mendapatkan kesempatan untuk mempresentasikan hasil penelitian saya. Oke, saya izin share screen terkait materi. Oke, judul penelitian yang saya ambil adalah Application of the Banter Lanyah Dan Method to the Process of Memorizing the Quran for Bait Tahfidz Al-Quran Maulana Malik Ibrahim Islamic State University Malang Students. Jadi penelitian yang saya ambil adalah tentang pengaplikasian metode Banter Lanyah 10 terhadap proses menghafal Al-Quran santri Bait Tahfidz Al-Quran UIN Maulana Malik Ibrahim Malang. Nah, table of contents. Jadi untuk pagi hari ini saya akan menjelaskan 3 hal. Yang pertama, introduction, untuk perkenalannya itu mengandung describe the research background and literature review. Jadi tentang latar belakang dari penelitian serta kajian pustaka dari apa yang saya teliti. Kemudian ada method, yaitu describe the methods, objects, and time span of the research. Jadi menjelaskan tentang metode yang saya pakai, objek yang saya teliti, serta waktu atau rentang waktu yang saya gunakan untuk penelitian. Kemudian yang ketiga ada results and discussion, describe the results and analysis as well as conclusions from the influence of the use of research. Jadi mendeskripsikan tentang hasil dan analisis. Nah, sejauh mana efek dari metode tersebut terhadap hafalan Al-Quran, seperti itu. Nah, sebelum kita menginjakkan kaki di introduction atau di perkenalan, terlebih dahulu saya akan memberikan sebuah quotes, yaitu keeping is more difficult than memorizing. Jadi menjaga lebih susah daripada menghafalkan atau menambah. Nah, apa sih kaitannya quotes ini dengan apa yang saya teliti? Nah, mari kita simak selanjutnya. Yang pertama, introduction. Describe the research background and literature review. Jadi, mendeskripsikan tentang latar belakang penelitian, kenapa saya mengambil penelitian ini, serta kajian pustaka dari apa yang saya teliti. The background of this research is that many students have difficulty in memorizing the Quran at university, both in adding or maintaining the memorization. The cause of this difficulty is many hours of studying on campus assignments and the students' participation in campus activities such as organizations, which drains time and lowers the level concentration on the Quran memorization process. Ada teman-teman berbicara tentang latar belakang penelitian saya, terlebih dahulu kita mengulas bahwa Allah Subhanahu wa taala telah berjanji dalam firman-Nya, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Walaqad yassarnal Qur'ana lidzikri fahal antum mim muddakir, yang artinya telah kami jadikan atau telah kami permudah Al-Quran itu bagimu, maka apakah kamu mengambil pelajaran? Nah, dari ayat ini teman-teman semua, jadi dapat kita simpulkan bahwa sebenarnya Al-Quran itu adalah sesuatu yang mudah dihafal. Kalau kita melihat dari ayat ini, karena Allah Subhanahu wa taala sendiri sudah mempermudahkannya. Mempermudahkan untuk apa? Untuk dihafalkan, untuk dikaji, untuk ditelaah kembali seperti itu. Maka tidak heran kalau kita sekarang banyak sekali menemukan para penghafal Al-Quran atau tren menghafalkan Al-Quran sekarang banyak sekali lomba-lomba MHQ, Musabaqah Hifdzil Quran, serta mungkin beasiswa-beasiswa tahfidz, pondok tahfidz. Bahkan ketika Ramadan kita menemukan acara di televisi, anak-anak kecil usia belum ada 10 tahun itu sudah sangat lancar sekali diberi tebaan tentang ayat tersebut, tentang ayat-ayat Quran yang mana jumlahnya tidak sedikit, tapi sangat lancar seperti itu. Nah, akan tetapi seiring bertambahnya usia, kita juga semakin berat kewajibannya. Nah, hal itu juga dirasakan ketika seorang penghafal Quran ini merupakan pelajar atau murid yang mana dulunya mungkin menghafalkan Al-Quran di MAN, di SMA, di SMP, atau di pondok pesantren, kemudian beralih menjadi mahasiswa yang notabene di kampus mendapatkan banyak sekali tugas, banyak sekali penelitian ini itu, kemudian berkurangnya waktu karena mungkin ikut organisasi ini, ikut organisasi itu, seperti itu, sehingga melemahkan atau mengurangi tingkat konsentrasi terhadap hafalan Al-Quran. Nah, hal ini juga dirasakan oleh santri Bait Tahfidz Al-Quran Win Maulana Malik Ibrahim Malang, sehingga ada metode banter lanyah 10. Nah, apa sih maksud dari banter lanyah 10? Terdiri dari 3 kesatuan. Yang pertama banter. Banter atau reciting loud. Jadi membaca secara keras yang mana itu bisa didengar minimal oleh telinganya sendiri. Jadi di mana nanti ketika setoran, kalau di Indonesia itu kan biasanya sekali maju setoran untuk membacakan hafalan kepada guru itu kan lebih dari 1 orang. Jadi mungkin 5 orang atau 4 orang secara bersamaan. Nah, ketika kita membaca secara keras, kita akan menambah konsentrasi terhadap hafalan kita sendiri. Jadi kita tidak terganggu oleh hafalan-hafalan yang lain, teman-teman yang lain seperti itu. Yang kedua adalah lanya. Lanya di sini bermakna smoothly atau fluent atau well. Jadi kita harus mempersiapkannya sebelum itu. Yang dimaksud lanya di sini adalah kita harus mengulang-ulang hafalan supaya ketika maju nanti kita mungkin tidak gemetar atau tidak takut atau tidak panik karena kita sudah lancar dalam menyetorkan hafalan seperti itu. Nah, itu juga bertujuan untuk mengurangi gangguan mobilitas terhadap teman-teman kita yang lain. Kalau misalkan kita menyetorkan sesuatu atau kita menghafalkan sesuatu kepada guru, sedangkan kita tidak lancar, kan itu akan mengganggu hafalan teman-teman yang lain. Nanti teman-temannya menjadi juga tidak lancar seperti itu. Kemudian ada 10. 10 method is symbolic of rote repetition. Jadi 10 di sini adalah simbol dari pengulangan. Nah, sesuatu yang disampaikan secara berulang-ulang itu kan lama-kelamaan kita akan menghafal. Contoh kecil misalkan ada seorang non-muslim itu hidup di lingkungan daerah orang Islam yang mana notabene terdapat surau yang mengumandangkan adzan 5 kali sehari gitu ya. Jadi meskipun dia tanpa disengaja atau tanpa dia berniat untuk menghafalkan adzan itu, dia pasti akan menghafalnya seperti itu. Nah, sama ketika Al-Quran itu dibaca berulang-ulang, jadi dia akan lama-kelamaan hafal. Nah, metode yang saya gunakan itu adalah qualitative method dan untuk tujuan penggunaan atau tujuan penelitiannya itu adalah untuk meneliti atau menemukan apakah metode Banterlanya 10 ini merupakan metode yang cocok dan baik untuk proses menghafal khususnya santri atau mahasiswa di tingkat universitas seperti itu. Untuk objek penelitian saya memilih santri atau mahasiswa sekaligus yang mondok ya istilahnya ya, berada di Bait Tahfidz Al-Quran Win Maulana Malik Ibrahim Malang angkatan 2019 yang berkisar antara Juni 2021 sampai Juni 2022. Kemudian metodenya saya menggunakan observasi serta wawancara, dan untuk penjabarannya atau presenting datanya saya menggunakan deskriptif kualitatif. Kemudian untuk hasilnya, yang pertama mungkin perlu diketahui oleh teman-teman sekalian ya, bahwa dalam menghafalkan Al-Quran itu ada dua model. Yang pertama ada ziyadah, yang kedua ada murajaah. Nah, ziyadah ini adalah menyetorkan atau membacakan hafalan sesuatu yang belum pernah kita hafal sebelumnya. Jadi misalkan teman-teman nih baru menghafalkan Al-Quran, baru juz 1. Nah, kita membacakan hafalan baru, itu namanya ziyadah. Yang kedua ada murojaah. Murojaah ini adalah ketika kita mengulangi hafalan yang pernah kita hafalkan sebelumnya dan kita menyetorkannya kembali atau kita membacakannya kembali. Seperti itu namanya murojaah. Atau dalam bahasa keseharian di Indonesia ya tradisinya, ziyadah ini tambahan. Kalau misalkan murojaah itu dersan seperti itu, deres. Oke, untuk hasilnya setelah penggunaan metode Banterlanya 10 selama 1 tahun berkisar antara Juni 2021 sampai Juni 2022, ini saya mendapati ada 5 objek. Nah, itu saya kasih kode ya. Yang kode A itu untuk yang prakhotimat atau yang belum menyelesaikan 30 juz, bisa teman-teman lihat sendiri. Untuk total masing-masing itu minimal kan kalau misalkan di Bait Tahfidz Al-Quran itu minimal 1 tahun menambah 3 juz. Nah, dengan menggunakan metode Banterlanya 10 ternyata lebih atau lebih dari 20% atau bahkan bisa dikatakan 80% santri itu menambah lebih dari target. Nah, targetnya 3%, ternyata ada yang menambah sampai 4 juz, 10 juz seperti itu. Nah, kemudian untuk yang murojaah, untuk murojaah ini saya ini juga menambahkan santri-santri yang sudah hatam seperti itu. Nah, untuk kode A itu yang sudah hatam, yang kode A itu belum hatam, yang kode B itu sudah hatam. Nah, untuk hasilnya ternyata penambahannya itu bisa teman-teman lihat ya, minimal itu kan 1 juz, jadi lebih dari 1 juz gitu. Banyak sekali, hampir atau bahkan lebih dari 90% itu santri menambah atau melancarkan hafalannya lebih dari 1 juz. Karena ketika kita menghafalkan Al-Quran sebanyak itu tidak menutup kemungkinan ada beberapa juz yang bisa dibilang mati atau sekarat ya, atau bahasa lainnya itu peteng atau remang-remang. Jadi kalau di murojaah lagi itu agak susah. Nah, ketika menggunakan metode Banterlanya 10 ini ternyata bisa menambah atau memperbaiki hafalan yang sudah dihafal itu lebih dari 1 juz. Okay, so it can be concluded that the Banterlanya 10 method is the right method to help memorize the student, especially for those who study at universities. Jadi metode Banterlanya 10 ini adalah metode yang tepat dan benar untuk membantu hafalan, khususnya bagi mahasiswa pada tingkat kampus seperti itu. Mungkin demikian dari saya. Ada kurang lebihnya saya mohon maaf. Terima kasih banyak atas kesempatannya. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, well, so the presentation from Nurisma will be our last presentation today. Okay, well, so here in Makassar, it is 5 o'clock, so we can close our meeting and presentation room today. Thank you very much for your kind attention and very nice presentation. See you in our next, the third International Conference on Social and Islamic Studies. Don't forget
Sorry,
Yes.
miss. I will take picture.
Okay, well, so please open up your video camera. We are going to take a picture.
Okay.
Okay, well, Dewi Rahayu sudah senyum Pepsoden.
Sorry,
Apriani, can you switch on your lamp, please? That's too dark.
Areni group. Okay.
Okay, Rahayu Suharti.
Okay.